Good afternoon, everybody. Before we get started, in case you're not familiar, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the Reisman Awards. So the Reisman Awards is our annual customer recognition program, where we get to highlight the incredible work that a section of our customers are doing. And we've been offering this award since 2017. And since then, we've awarded over 46 firms with awards in a number of different categories. Every year, we receive hundreds of different submissions, and we read every single one of them before selecting our winners. And so if you are a law firm, I would highly encourage you to submit. We get so much value from understanding the work that you're doing and inspired when it comes to building all of our products. My team in particular really uses your use cases and the people that you're serving and the way that you're operating your law firms as fuel for our products and our product development. And on that note, actually, I think I've missed my clicker. Oh, thank you, sir. You're the best. Thank you so much. So my name is Michelle Dunlea. I work at Clio as the Vice President of Product Management. I've been here for 6 years, and my team builds the product that our customers use each day and the product that you guys use to serve your clients. But today I have the honor of interviewing these amazing people to help you understand the work that they're doing, the communities that they're serving, and hopefully it will allow you to be inspired and go home and understand how you can start to implement some of their strategies and some of their tactics when you get back to the office next week. So I'd like to welcome Dave Burton, Jennifer Laviano, and Melissa Gagne. Welcome today. And I do also want to welcome our virtual audience. So this keynote is being streamed. So we have people from all over the world listening to today's session. So before we get started, I want to show you a couple of quick videos so that you can get to know these guys. And then we're going to jump into the discussion. I have some questions that I want to ask all of you. And we're going to leave about 5 minutes at the end for you or our virtual audience to ask some questions if you have anything specific that you'd like to learn as well. So first up is LawLux.
As AI becomes more embedded in legal tools and legal software, the role of the lawyer will profoundly change. Innovation is everything. AI won't replace lawyers. Lawyers will be replaced by other lawyers who use AI well. I'm Dave Burton. I'm the Managing Principal at LawLux. We're based in Melbourne, Australia, and we've been a Clio customer since 2015. LawLux's mission is really clear. We want to help our clients with accessible, exceptional legal work. Law firms take too long to turn around legal work. They're too expensive, they're inaccessible. So we set out to relieve those pain points with our technology and with our interface. Two things that LawLux has done to innovate are one, building the large language model that answers legal questions for free, 24/7, and two, our artificial intelligence onboarding. Clio has contributed significantly to innovation at LawLux. The APIs that Clio has developed has allowed us to integrate seamlessly our onboarding technology and ensure that when we have pending clients, the data that underpins our client is of really high quality. Redefining the front door to the legal profession has a direct impact on client acquisition and the client experience. If you can provide information for free that's helpful, if and when they decide to become a paid customer, you're the first person that they're going to speak to.
We believe innovation can play a huge role in access to justice. With our AI technology, we help our customers who are mainly small, medium enterprises who may not have the legal resources to get access to that powerful technology at any time.
I don't believe that law firms have a right to their future. Law firms exist to serve their clients. They exist to discharge their duties to the court. And if they want to discharge those duties, they have to do it by way of innovation and adapting to technological change.
The future is AI-driven. Get on board or get left behind.
Amazing. I love that. The new front door to a law firm. That's brilliant. And moving on to Lavinia and Gagne.
At Laviano and Gagne, we want to make good trouble. To make good trouble means to use our system that is terribly unfair for most people who need access to justice, accessible and meaningful. And we feel that we're making good trouble every day. I'm Jen Laviano. My law firm is Laviano and Gagne. We're located in Connecticut, and I've been a Clio customer since 2011. I'm a second-generation special education lawyer. My father started practicing special education law in the 1980s. My mission is to make sure that children with disabilities receive the services that they're entitled to so they can be productive adults. About 15% of the students who attend public schools in this country have disabilities. It says millions of children in our country who are either going to be productive, happy members of our society because we teach them the right way and we give them skills, or they won't.
We represent families all over the state of Connecticut who just don't understand the legal rights. They don't understand what their kids are entitled to. We understand what those rights are, and we go in there and we advocate and make sure that our clients are receiving the programming and services that they're entitled to. I entered the legal profession for very personal reasons. I am the mother of a 29-year-old named Ryan who is profoundly autistic and intellectually disabled. When he was 5 years old, I hired a special education attorney for him. Through his advocacy, it changed the whole trajectory of Ryan's life. And so at 44 years old, I went to law school full-time so that I could represent families like mine and hopefully have the same impact that my special education attorney had on our family. Kids with disabilities have the right to a free and appropriate public education. And they have a right to have access to programming and services that meets their needs, just like other students do.
The impact of advocating for children with disabilities for almost 30 years is tremendous. For the children we represent, it's really wonderful to see them blossom and grow. When they feel that they are now being empowered and that they're actually learning along with their non-disabled peers, that's incredible. It's transformative, is what it is.
Do you know? Yes. I think I've watched that video about 6 times now, and I have the same reaction every single time. You two are absolutely inspiring, really and truly. So David, let's start with you. Tell us a bit about what unique perspective you have or what client need that you uncovered that allowed you to see this opportunity to do things differently in your firm.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think it started, I was previously in a large law firm, and the access to justice challenge really was evident then. There were a number of clients that couldn't afford the hourly rates, the estimates and the like. So while working there, I think it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that there should be a better way to do it. There was a huge need. 40% of SMEs in Australia think their legal fees are too high. I hazard to guess it's higher than that. The challenge is that it's very hard to make change from within, especially in larger law firms. So it became apparent that the only approach from there was to try to do it ourselves. So very lucky to have Andrew, who's here. He finished with that pretty punchy quote at the end of the video. And we've been going now for about 3 years.
That's pretty amazing. What about for you, Jennifer?
Can you ask the question again?
Absolutely, sorry. Yeah. What unique perspective do you have or client need did you see that allowed you to start your firm and operate it in the unique way that you do?
So I think a unique perspective I have is that I was practicing special education law before I became a parent, which certainly factored into how I parent, but it also very much made me aware of the fact that if disability doesn't personally touch you, for most people, you don't know about it, you don't care about it, and you certainly don't seek to help people who have disabilities, which are not just what people typically think of as disabilities. They are everything from mental health challenges to dyslexia and attention deficit and all sorts of things. And so I try to put myself in the perspective of my clients when I'm talking to them to understand that they're coming at it as a parent, but sometimes they're coming at it not really, or sometimes for the first time realizing their child might have a disability. So we have to sort of shift into not just protecting their legal rights, but massaging them through what is a difficult process for a parent just in general.
Yeah. a strong counseling element
Yeah.
to that as well, I imagine.
Yes, yes.
So what drew you to it, before you had children? You mentioned that your dad was an attorney as well. Was that part of it?
Yes, it was entirely it. So my late father, I'm the third of 4 children, and I'm the only one he could sucker into becoming a lawyer. And so he was a civil rights attorney doing a lot of employment law and other kinds of plaintiff's work. And he represented a man in an age discrimination case, employment case, whose son had a disability and got into a lot of trouble at school. He pulled a fire alarm, and this is like 1985. And he got in trouble, and the notice he got said, you can bring a lawyer. So he called my dad and said, I think I need a lawyer for my son's meeting. Will you come with me? And he said, sure. And he looked up the law in the law library. That's how long ago this was. And he went to the meeting. He was already suing that school district where I was going to high school. That was fun. And he was already suing them on a First Amendment case, and so he knew their lawyer and all of that. And he went to the meeting, and he was blown away that they weren't doing anything they're required to do. He had just read it the night before, and he's like, no, you have to have this meeting, and you have to do these things. And there was only like one other person in the state doing it, and he started taking these cases, and it just became most of his practice area because people were desperate for representation in Connecticut at the time. So I started going to these meetings when I was 18 with him, and the rest is history, I guess.
That's incredible. Led you to where you are today. Melissa, can you share an example of how a new technology that you've adopted, whether it's AI or otherwise? I know AI is a hot topic over these couple of days, but it doesn't have to be AI, and how it's made a meaningful difference in how you serve your clients?
Sure. Well, so I know Duo is no longer Duo. But I know it is Duo, so that's what I'll refer to it as here.
Formerly known as Duo, now
Formerly
known as
known
Manage
as
AI.
Duo. For me, that, and I love Clio. I love all aspects of Clio, but Duo for me has had the most direct impact, I think, on how I'm able to serve clients. So, and it's evolved over the last year. So even when the initial iteration, they kept adding things. And so in our practice, some of what we do are these IEP meetings. And since the pandemic, a lot of it's virtual. And they're legal meetings, and you're there with the school district and the families and the school team and the district's attorney. But a lot of these meetings are virtual, which is an efficiency that carried over from the pandemic. So in these legal meetings now, you're on screen, but I have call it my sidecar, where I have Clio up because I'm able to access documents very quickly during these legal meetings. And what Duo has allowed me to do is when I'm in the middle of the meeting and I need something quickly, I can actually ask it to pull up, what was the educational recommendation from this evaluation in this case? And in 5 seconds, it comes up with the link to the actual evaluation that I can then quote from in the middle of this legal meeting. And so to me, those efficiencies where I can do that on the spot directly has really changed my advocacy at these IEP meetings.
How would you have done that before? How would you have handled that before Duo or Manage AI?
Yeah, so again, before, there are times during a meeting where I have to ask to take a break because I need to look something up. If I really need something and I know in the moment I need it, before I would have to just go into Clio and get the documents and, ask for a minute. But now when I sort of think about it, I know I'm going to need this, I have it ready and on the spot. It makes the meetings more efficient, makes them flow a little bit smoother. And I just think it improves your ability to advocate because I can think, I might need this, or someone will say something that will make me think of something, and I'll go grab it in the document, and like I said, it pulls up. My favorite part about it is it doesn't just pull up what you're asking, it gives you the link to where in that document the answer is. So then you can quote right from the document. And when you're in real time advocating at these IEP meetings, it's just been really helpful.
That's a very cool use case. Thank you for sharing that. David, how about you? I know that you've been using Clio in a pretty unique way. Can you give us an example of how your adoption of the technology has impacted your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're trying to do and the way we talk about it internally is we're trying to redefine the front door of the legal profession. So it's really from the journey where someone thinks they have a legal question or a legal issue, and it's really trying to provide them with information to empower them to help themselves, and then we're there if and when they need legal representation. So for us, it's very much about access to justice. It's about levelling out the information asymmetry that exists between law firms and legal consumers. And then from there, when it's at the point of us providing legal work, like as their law firm, then we have onboarding software, uses AI to make it very frictionless. And then with Clio and with the APIs that they've got, it's incredibly easy to then transfer that data into Clio and have them start as a client there. In terms of the information asymmetry and resolving that very serious problem, and Jack spoke about that really well around the $1 trillion latent legal market. We've built our own large language model. It's hosted locally. And we've prepared information and assisted by law students to provide accurate cited legal information for those questions. So yeah, technology's been incredible. It's transformative. It's a very different use case to Clio Duo, and Clio Work, as we probably should say now. But we think it has a really big impact for the community.
Yeah, you've done some super interesting things with that technology, and it's very cool to see the different applications of it. It is so varied. Moving into AI, which kind of we've naturally ended up in, I think most people were at Esther Perel's talk this morning, and she talked about the paradox of like the fear and the excitement. And I think that's quite true when it comes to AI. It's an opportunity and it's a challenge. Maybe speaking to you, Jennifer, can you talk about how you're using AI in a way that doesn't lose the human connection of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, we actually had this conversation at lunch. We were talking about that based on the keynote.
Yeah.
There's a piece of certainly our practice area where if you didn't have that human connection, that parent could have access to all of the information in the world, could have at their fingertips with AI the statute and the statutory reasons that they have certain entitlements, but they will never be able to not be emotional about their child, nor should they be. You're not a really good parent if you're not emotional about your own child, right? Especially if they have special needs. So most of our clients will find themselves in a situation that they are simply at odds with their school district and they need somebody who can be their voice. And I don't think that that's where AI comes in. I just don't. Yeah. And so my whole viewpoint on AI did turn around through Clio, because I was definitely on that anxiety, like, are we turning into the Matrix viewpoint? I was getting anxious about it. But like other movements, I was trying to embrace it and realize that we've really had AI for a very, very long time. And it's about the responsible adults more than it is about whether we avoid the fact that AI is here and it's here to stay. So I appreciate we all need to have guardrails. And what we were talking about is my job can be made so much easier through AI, but I'm still going to make sure I'm reading that document and making sure that it didn't get something a little wrong or that I want to revise it or add to it. So I think we all have to just make sure we're proceeding, because it does feel a bit like a speeding train for everyone, I think, and not just in the law. But find a way to embrace it without losing what are your boundaries of how you're going to represent your client ethically.
Yeah. Oh, I found it very interesting that you said that you had anxiety around it, but by adopting it, you mitigated that. Yeah. What was the turning point of adoptions? How did you get over that anxiety and start to use it?
I'm not entirely over it, and that's not just AI. I'm not the most technologically savvy person. I'm better than many, but I'm 55, and it's not necessarily something that comes really easily to me. I think that part of it was just realizing that it isn't an option whether we're going to adopt it, and I certainly don't want to put my profession or my livelihood out of business, and that I have an opportunity to bring access to so many more families that don't have access to attorneys because we can do it more efficiently now.
Yeah, it's really leaning into the positive things that it allows. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Melissa, can you maybe talk a bit about some of the challenges that you faced as you've integrated new technologies and new processes into your law firm?
I think, like with anything else, some of the challenges is just the time that it takes to get to learn how to use the technology. Clio is constantly improving and adding new features. So for me, it's really just the biggest challenge is finding the time to learn it. And then also sharing that knowledge with staff and getting everyone else on board, because I do think that there is an anxiety with even our staff, our paralegals and our legal assistants, that the more that AI is able to do, I think they're anxious. And so part of that also is reassuring them. When people call our law firm, it's because their child is in crisis. They want to hear a human being on the other side of that phone when they make that call to a special education attorney. So, so part of it was just reassuring staff that this is something that's going to make everything better for for them and for, the people that we serve. So those were some of the bigger challenges initially.
Yeah, I think that's a very real fear that a lot of people are grappling with right now too. Yeah. I imagine you have a different perspective on it though, David, because you kind of came at your firm technology first. What hurdles did you face, if any? Because I know you have a technical co-founder too, which probably helped smooth things a little bit, but there must have been some challenges there.
Yeah, there are challenges. Artificial intelligence is a bit of a wild beast sometimes. I think I was very lucky. I got good counsel early on that for what we were looking to embark on, you did need a technical co-founder, and I'm really lucky to have Andrew. But from a different perspective, I would probably talk about evaluation. So the challenge we've been able to build the technology, but how do you evaluate the quality of the output of your models? So for us, we want to be technology agnostic, so we want to be able to plug and play different large language models. So whether we're using frontier models from OpenAI or Anthropic, or whether we're using local models that are on smaller parameters, we want to be able to assess the quality of the output. We want to assess for factors like bias, hostility, for accuracy, groundedness, things like that. So we've actually spent a lot of time building an evaluation platform, and it was a real challenge initially, and we were at the frontier of it. So Andrew was doing a lot of research and came up with a way of asking. We ask hundreds of questions multiple times, and then we use other AI models to assess them, give them a ranking, and then we can zero in on types of questions that didn't quite get answered properly or are being answered incorrectly. And there's so many different settings you can change. You can change your chunking, you can change how you reorder the questions, you can use AI to evaluate your responses. It's endless. But having a strong evaluation platform has allowed us to overcome a lot of those quality output hurdles.
I feel those challenges deeply as somebody that's also working in the trenches. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm just conscious of time. We'll do one last question before we open it to the in-person and virtual audience for one or two questions. So let's make this a rapid fire, and we'll start with you, Melissa. What advice would you give to firms that want to innovate but that aren't sure where to start?
I think you start with getting, if you're here, you probably are a Clio customer, but I think you have to make the decision of what platform you're going to use. That's where you have to start. So if for anybody out there, you have to decide, okay, I'm going to use Clio. And I always say, pick one thing at a time. Start with Clio Manage. Go slowly. You don't have to get the whole suite of what Clio offers right off the bat. It's attractive and enticing because it does offer. There are so many possibilities. But start with one thing like Manage, and then you start to see all the efficiencies that Clio can bring you, and you will organically recognize what you need next. Maybe you want Clio Grow. Maybe you want to move more into the AI. But that would be my best advice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Good advice. Jennifer?
Knowledge is power, just so find people who know more than you do and that you trust, and the more you know, the less afraid you're going to be.
How did you source that person or people?
Here.
Oh, I'm so glad
Clio
to hear that.
No, this is how I got technology to be part of my law firm. Yeah,
That's so
no
awesome.
question. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. David?
I completely agree with Melissa. I think Clio's got a wonderful product, and just familiarise yourself with that. It's also one of those things that you have to commit to a level of investment, and I appreciate how hard it is for lawyers to set aside time on non-billable work or work that's not directed towards finding that billable work. But it's an investment and you have to treat it as such. The efficiencies are there. They absolutely are. Everyone's got a different view on how efficient and how deeply you can use AI, but I can guarantee that each and every one of you can use it to run your firm more efficiently. So yeah, maybe you'll have a few weeks where you commit to going through some learning modules or something like that, and forcing yourself to use it. But once you're in the rhythm of it, it's a lot easier. For those who potentially don't have the funds to go towards the AI, with Clio, you've probably all got Copilot. Even if you just start with asking Copilot to record your Teams meetings, provide a summary, and summarise action steps, well, I think that's just one of those very basic use cases, and you might find that if you start doing things like that, getting summaries of emails and the like from software you've already got, then that might give you the motivation and the incentive to start upping your game, and as Melissa said, start using Clio.
Yeah, I agree with that. Small but effective, and then you build the habit incrementally day after day after day. Yeah. So we're just about at time, but I think we have time for maybe one question. Perfect. We have somebody coming up to you with a microphone.
Yes, hello. My name is Alexander Erlin. I'm from Sarasota, Florida, sole practitioner. And my question is not going to be on AI, but I was very moved by, just like many other people, by the story of the two ladies over there that are trying to help out the kids who have special needs. What I'm going to ask you is, do you actually come across situations where, and I can see how passionate you are about this, where somebody comes in, parents come in, and they don't have the means to pay legal fees, and the kids really need help? What do you do in those situations? And I'm not sure if there is any kind of provision where the court covers the fee, or there's a state funds that help out to cover the legal fees. But I do know, and I heard personally about a lot of cases, even in Florida, where the parents can get the special programs for their kids who have autism or Down syndrome or what's not. So I know it's an ongoing problem, and I know it's a problem that affects a lot of people. And there's quite a few educational law lawyers now, but not that many that actually specialize in special education. That's a niche. So my question to you guys, what do you do when somebody comes in and they say, we just don't have the means to pay the fees?
So a couple of things. The federal law in the United States that governs special education is part of the civil rights laws of the 70s and does have a fee-shifting provision for prevailing party. So that's one way in which it allows private attorneys to be incentivized to take cases with the family can't pay. We do have some state organizations in our state that provide grants to families who don't qualify for legal aid but can't quite afford a private attorney as well. We're thrilled to hear that there's now an option for clients to click when they retain us, saying I'll pay later, and they maybe pay a percentage and pay it slowly. And we have used Clio to set up payment plans for families who can't afford us. So we do a wide range of things to make it more palatable for families to be represented by our office. But that prevailing party fee is a big incentive for many attorneys in this field who feel strongly that they want to help a family but know that they're going to have to wait to get paid by the school district, and only if they win. So it's a little dicey, but we offer lots of different options.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are at time. I just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us today. I hope you're leaving with some actionable information that you can implement. Thank you and congratulations. Like I said, your stories